Hello, in today's video I'll be doing a part 2 on where to lift and place your jack stands, except these are the more difficult and requested vehicles. So to begin, the first thing you want to do is make sure you use your parking brake and place blocks or chocks on the front and the rear of the wheel. We'll be starting this video off with this 2016 Ford Mustang, except that this one is lowered and you will notice that an ordinary jack will not work. So having a low profile jack will make lifting these vehicles that I'll be showing in this video a whole lot easier. This vehicle can be lifted from the pinch weld and you will notice that it actually has an arrow to show you where. Another good thing about this vehicle is that it has cutouts where you can place the jack stand as well. Here's a better look at that arrow and the location that you can place your jack stand. And you can follow the same steps for lifting the rear half using your pinch weld. But of course, whenever you're lifting the vehicle, you always want to make sure that there are no fuel lines or brake lines in the area that you may damage. If you don't like using the pinch weld, another good area to place your jack stand would be anywhere on this subframe. And here's an example of a good place to put your jack stand using your subframe. Next, we'll be looking at locations where to lift this 2016 Cadillac ATS. This pinch weld is not a good lifting point on this vehicle, because it is sunk in and you may damage the rocker panel area if you do so. This section looks like it'd be a good place to lift from, but it is thin and will bend, so you definitely want to avoid this area. One good place to lift from is this area further back. It is definitely strong enough to support lifting from. And here's a closer look at this area. The bad thing about it though is that you don't have a good place to put a jack stand. And you can see that a jack stand don't sit in here well at all. But this vehicle does have a good lifting point in the middle of the subframe. You will notice that rubber section that protrudes down below the plastic panel. It is a good lift point, and you will lift both wheels together. But you do want to use a small piece of wood between your jack and that piece. It is a tight spot, but you will notice that this jack does clear it, but barely. As you're lifting, you do want to make sure that it's sitting on the piece properly. And now to place the jack stands. Well, for the front we can use the area where we were lifting from earlier. It makes a great spot. And now we can repeat for the opposite side. This is what your setup should look like when you lower the weight of the vehicle onto the jack stand. And of course, you want to make sure that there are no lines or hoses that you may damage. And here's a close-up of where the jack is actually lifting from. Now for lifting the rear half, I use the rear differential. But as with the front, you want to place a block of wood between the jack and where you're lifting. That way you avoid damaging it. Before lifting, you want to make sure that it's sitting in position properly. I placed the jack stand right next to the rear pinch weld location, right in front of the rear wheel on this black bracket. And this is what it should look like with the weight lowered onto the jack stands. And now lastly for this Corvette ZR1. For this vehicle you will need these lifting pucks to make it safer and not damage the underside of this car. You place it onto these cutouts and you rotate it on. And now you just put your jack into position and lift. You will notice how little space you got to fit a jack in, but it works really well. To give you a better look at how it lifts, I'm going to switch over to this Corvette Z06. And lastly, I placed the jack stands on the subframe. Well, I hope you guys found this video helpful and informative. If you did, please hit that like button, as it helps promote my video and my channel. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already.